a small grant capacity to build better efficiencies. Sharing services, for instance, last year CNDC spearheaded an effort to do group purchase of healthcare benefits, which has resulted in significant savings for a lot of the folks that are taking place in that pool. Specifically, NPI in the pool this past year is realizing a $50,000 savings per year by joining the effort that we have spearheaded. We want to increase those, make more of those type shared services available to our member groups. Secondly, coordinate the creation of a shared community development measurement and evaluation process for CDCs and for use by other organizations. This gets back to that transparency and decision making that Joe spoke of earlier. Right now, many of our CDCs are searching for funding, applying for funding, are being measured by a whole slew of different metrics. We want to be, NPI wants to be the organization that really spearheads an efficient system to actually measure CDCs against one another and against themselves. With you in mind, we will create this transparent system to evaluate CDCs. Recruit, retain, and develop high-capacity staff within community development corporations. This is, we are hopeful, the resurgence of a quantum leap program. Many of you in this room, I fixed right on Walter for this for some reason, took part and were the recipients of valuable capacity building and education through quantum leap. We really want to bring that type of service back to CDCs so that you are supported. Staffs are driven, staffs are built in their capacity. It's not a cheap program, so I don't know that we could certainly bring it back in its full-fledged capacity that was had back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but certainly want to bring back that capacity building service through NPI. Establish uniform operating standards to ensure high-performing community development organizations. As a former executive director of a community development corporation, I assure you that the operating standards that NPI developed in 2002 and then updated in 2005 sat every day on my desk. I'm that kind of person. I like to have a check and balance. I like to be able to go to something to see where the organization I'm running is performing at. Are we at threshold? Are we at best practice? It is the intention through this plan to bring back the operating standards and with you, community development corporations, update those so that there is, again, something that you can check and balance yourself against. Lastly, expand service citywide, service delivery citywide to community development corporations. And Joel spoke of this a little bit earlier. And we really are hopeful that our merger exploration produces a fashion in which our organizations can combine, bring citywide services to all the CDCs. It's happening already with things like NST. We want to elevate that a little bit more. Before I turn the next portion and the goal two over to Linda, I do want to speak as a former grantee of NPI when I ran Tremont West Development Corporation, as a former grantee from CDC, and from my current vantage point, I really do believe in this plan. It was an honor to be part of it. 6 months of hard work. I assure you that everything that was developed out of this was poured over. I joked in the last session that the Battle of Foster in the mission statement really was false about using that word. This is some serious stuff, which was done with you in mind. I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of the plan. You know, there's 88 tactics, ironically like the counties in Ohio, but 88 different tactics to go through. I encourage you to read them and to hold NPI accountable for fulfilling this plan. It's not the plans that we've seen of yesterday. To have NPI stand up and say they're not going to be the leader in every role is huge. To be the leader, a support partner, and participant is what I call leadership. So I definitely commend my colleagues at NPI for the creation of this plan. And at this point, I will turn it over to Linda for goal 2.
Okay, thanks, Monique. So goal 2 is the one goal that's probably going to be most familiar to anybody who knows me with Congress. In some ways, when we started this plan, we talked about what do we want to make sure we do. One of the things we discussed was not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have 2 strong subsidiaries in our lending arm, which capital and then a development arm, New Village. And they are all about placemaking. And anyone who's known our company knows that really that's been our focus. And the widgets we all made our grantees count were placemaking widgets, right? Number of units developed, number of square feet developed. We're going to continue doing that, not maybe so much on the widget county side. We'll see where the metrics go. But we are still going to embrace those principles that are components of our history that makes sense to still do, right? All the things, obviously our two subsidiaries are still going to be real estate focused as a real estate lending arm and development arm. But in our work with all the partners and many of you here, we're also going to look at it from a different vantage point, not only on where are we the leader, as Colleen mentioned, but where can we be a participant in the partner. So you can read the categories. Each of these bullets references a strategy, and then those 88 tactics that we keep referring to are subcategories of each of these strategies. But what's probably nuanced here for us and different in the placemaking realm is that we're going to look at safety in a new way. And I was thinking about this because Marlene Wesleyan, before she was Marlene Wesleyan, was leader in Broadway. And I don't know how many meetings we have about safety and crime. It's not new to anybody who's worked in community development. We've always been concerned about safety and crime. But MPI wants to re-engage on that topic and find, we have touched on it over our history. We want to find new ways to think about how do we take the work we recently did around harm prevention and environmental design, and where could that go? How could we support that work in a deeper way? And what other opportunities are out there that we haven't focused on because that was in the leadership space for us. So we're going to look at that. The other one, and this really is something we've done in terms of attraction. We've never not been caring about attraction. But if we in fact do merge with Live Cleveland and have that capacity on our team, we're going to look differently at how we promote neighborhoods and how we might, by the synergy of our two organizations being together, really be able to do the 1 + 1 = 5 instead of 2. And then the third area, which we've talked about it only in a narrow way around transferring development, is transit. And what we'd like to do is figure out where do we need to be a better participant and advocate and support RTA and the work they're doing, support by Cleveland and what they're doing to transform neighborhoods around thinking on a more pedestrian and bike level. So those are probably the areas where we're going to emphasize in a new way going forward. The rest, hopefully, will seem slightly fresh, but it's really going to be a lot of what we've been doing in the past, and we're going to try and do it better and definitely more collaboratively and think in a broader approach as opposed to just what's MPI's immediate focus. So I think Joel's going to introduce Evelyn, right?
So I refer to new staff. We're very excited to welcome Evelyn Burnett back to Cleveland. Many of you know her. She is our new Vice President of Economic Opportunity. And she spent about 4 years ago working in New York for the National Consortium of Foundations called Living Cities. Sorry, pull a blank on that. I wanted to say Live Cleveland, that new Living Cities. And we're really very, very excited. I think Evelyn's in her third week, but already having an impact, getting to know many of you who she didn't know before. So thank you for being here.
First, I wanted to start off by saying how excited I am to be back in Cleveland. I've been in New York for the past 3.5 or so years. And coming to places like this, and driving up and down the streets 3 years later, it's sort of amazing to see how different the city looks, the city feels, excitement, and energy. Always keep asking, what are you going to do back in Cleveland? I'm going to do everything. Cleveland's amazing. You should come visit. So I also want to thank Joel. I said that it'll be real, that we change in the bubble that you guys see on page 4, from human development to economic opportunity when it goes on business cards, but it's actually presentation, so instead of speaking directly to these points, I do want to talk a little bit more about what we want to achieve for Clevelanders, particularly low and moderate income families. You know, I don't have to remind anybody here that as financial insecurity is far into the middle class, the interest in innovative approaches, particularly things like asset building, have become a vital strategy in all of our work. We're realizing that assets matter today more than they ever have because they strengthen Clevelanders' ability and families to navigate the challenges of a really unpredictable economy. Me and my team are really going to focus a lot on asset building and other economic development and wealth creation strategies because they boost financial security and economic access and opportunities for Clevelanders to support the aspirations of their families and to do things like, of course, purchase a home, access quality education, start a business, but I think most important is participate in the formal economy in a way that they often are excluded from. As Joel mentioned earlier, our strategies will vary. In a lot of these places, they're very new. I'm not an expert. You guys are the experts, so we're really going to be looking to many of you, all of you actually, to partner in a variety of ways. And I think most importantly, to really build a truly integrated service delivery model. We talk about this in our urban planning and master's programs, et cetera. Very few cities have been really successful in building this, and I keep reminding my staff and colleagues how much Cleveland has to share with the field. Every time I read a Brookings Institution report or anything else, I'm often reminded that the folks that are speaking on behalf of low-income people don't truly understand the essence of how low-income people are living and the things that they need. And so it's really important that we take more of an active role in sharing thoughts and our learning and our strategies, not only with ourselves here in Cleveland, but with the larger field nationally. This work is really going to focus on creating a no-wrong-door approach. So when someone comes looking for help in attaining financial services and access to economic opportunity for them and their family, they're not turned away and told to go here or there. I think it's always been interesting. My mom worked for Ohio Department of Job and Family Services for 40 years. And the thing that she would get most frustrated about in those 40 years is how particularly a child would have to prove over and over and over again that they're poor and that they need help, right? And so we really want to create a system where any door you can get help, right? So to that end, goal 3 is opportunities are increased for more Cleveland residents to have the education, skills, knowledge, and experience to thrive at home, work, and in the community. This is really the people-focused portfolio. Again, we'll focus on areas of health, education, leadership building, community engagement, workforce development, and asset building. And again, I'm not a health expert, education expert, you guys are. And so again, we're really going to lean on you to help us create and build out this strategy. We're really focused on identifying again what our role will be. But some of our economic opportunity activities will include things like creating and managing programs. We have a really great partnership with the key financial center, the key bank. Thinking about ways to create and expand tools like children's savings account, individual development accounts, and also exploring new tools, products, and services that we can help create or co-create. We also, with partners, again, want to create that integrated service delivery model to ensure that no longer approach. Again, I'm really focused and pushing my staff. I remember the first day I told them, like, I want you guys to write some things and get them published in some national publications, but I still have an email within the city. All the guys got to read it. And, you know, again, it's really, I don't expect anybody to be a prize-winning author. I'm not even myself. But I do really think what we have to share with the field is important. Every time I see the statistics that are plaguing the Cleveland residents, I think we've got to make sure that the rest of the country knows what we're going to address in these problems. Also, increase access to financial planning through provider networks and connecting residents to safe and affordable financial products and services. And many of them are out there. I tell this story to my team and to Joel all the time. It was really amazing when I was at Living Cities. I was associate director for an initiative we have called the Admiral Center. It was founded by David Robinson, the NBA Hall of Famer. And it was amazing to see how the private sector can literally push any product and any service, no matter how good or bad it was for that consumer. My favorite example is always, I lived in Harlem, and so I lived right down the street from the Nike House of Hoops store, right? So all they sell in the store is $300 shoes, $300 at the minimum. And it would amaze me when I would like walk by on say a Thursday night or Friday morning, And I would start to see this like line form around the block. And finally, you know, I get a little nervous with the kids today, but I ask like, what's going on here? Like, is some event, Kobe coming, like what's going on? And they say, oh no, LeBron's are coming out Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. Not Friday mornings. These kids were standing, and these are low-income, moderate-income kids and families, standing outside to get a shoe that costs $300 for 3 days in advance because they really wanted it. You can't get the same family to take advantage of their earned tax credit, right? And that is a dysfunction of marketing, poor marketing, poor messaging. I think the other thing that's been interesting, particularly during my time in New York, was to watch organizations that don't do marketing and messaging well get together and try and do marketing and messaging a little better without having that like, capacity or capability. Like none of us know how to market and message, so like, let's get together and see if we can be a little bit better at it. And I firmly believe that doesn't work. You have to start to partner with organizations that do that very well. So we started to see some really interesting and unique partnerships with the private sector who they spend half of their budget to marketing and messaging. So you can get a person to buy $300 sheet, right? So really starting to think about, you know, how we can learn more about these products and services and tools that are available for low-income families. Also, we really want to directly address some of the systemic barriers, and Joel mentioned a little bit earlier, that are that create barriers to access and opportunity, like race, like class, like gender, lack of mobility, and then really sort of start to think about what our role is in addressing effective policy. I think most importantly, what I'd like to accomplish with this portfolio is really disrupting the norm. I learned this from my old CEO. He used to just stay in the meetings like over and over and over. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Like, I don't know what he means. And so finally one day it clicked what it means to like disrupt the norm. So we identify a problem. We might even identify some solutions, but we say, well, you know, this is the way we've always done it. So let's just keep doing it that way. We really have to disrupt the norm and challenge commonly held assumptions, particularly about what low and moderate income families can and cannot do, what they can and cannot achieve. We really want to be keenly intentional about the language that we use and increase our effectiveness again around marketing and messaging, around our interventions, products, and services. I think that the nomenclature that we use in this field is often very, very wrong. It's sort of how I think about financial planning. I know people are tired of hearing me talk on it, but low and moderate income families need a plan. They need education, they need literacy, but they really need a plan. Just like we would go sit down with our financial planner. I don't understand all these products and services that I have, but I need you to create a plan because here are the goals that I'm going to achieve. I think when we start to talk about literacy and education, we're talking about a very specific group and a very marginal set of services that we're going to provide. So really thinking being very keenly intentional about our language. Of course, transcend colloquialism, work with an adaptive leadership and collective impact framework, where again, we're working together to achieve these goals. Something that's really important, not fear, but learn from, and more importantly, highlight the data and share lessons with people in the field, so again, amongst ourselves, but also nationally. And then, really important is to support the backbone organizations, you all, while minding and creating new collaborations, partnerships, particularly with unusual bedfellows. And I think, again, I got a really unique opportunity to figure out like who can push a message better than we can sometimes. These celebrities sometimes are good, sometimes they're not, but you know, really thinking outside of the normal folks that we use to push a message. And of course, all of this while maintaining a commitment to being really innovative and entrepreneurial. So again, really excited to be back in Cleveland. I hope to meet all of you that don't know. And then turn it back over to Doug.
Thank you. We're so excited to have you. Goal 4 is about our own organization and being a leader, being an innovator and an entrepreneur. We think the St. Luke's project that we're working on now is an example of innovation, where we're putting the really wonderful intergenerational school, best rated charter school in the state, in with senior housing for the benefit of the seniors, for the benefit of the school kids, for the benefit of the whole community and everyone who's connected with it. So we want to ourselves be innovators and entrepreneurs, working in partnership, so leadership through partnership and convening. It's our intention to work with you to follow up on the summit. So there's a number of convenings that will be continued in 2013 to follow up on some of the things we heard at this summit. Also want to mention Marvin Hayes, who's working with Neighborhood Progress. Many of you know Marvin Hayes, formerly of the governor's office, before that of the mayor's office here in Cleveland, who's working with us on policy and advocacy going forward. Just again, we'll mention that we know that this work really will happen in partnership and in networks. So in Goal 1, we see ourselves as the leader, working with CNDC. Goal 2, this was what Linda talked about. Many of you are our partners here, so we see ourselves as a leader and a participant. Obviously, Clean Housing Network, Parkwork, what was Parkworks in Cleveland Public Art, which is now Land Studio, is an important partner here. So RTA is an important partner here in the placemaking part work. Goal 3, many of you, we see ourselves as support partners there because this work is new to us. We don't know how to run a good school. We don't want to be in the business of running schools. But in the case of St. Luke's, we think that we can build a school in a way that will have great community benefit. And we're working now with other projects that can result in really strong community schools. So we go into this area with great humility, as Evelyn talked about, and with open arms and hoping that we have something to do to support the work you're doing in some of these areas of human development. And Goal 4 is about making us the strongest organization possible. Talk a little bit about metrics. We're going to measure it. We're going to be strong about marketing the neighborhoods, the city, and the region. We're going to tell our story, and we're going to work in networks, so it'll be a collective impact. We know we can't do it ourselves. And that's it. I want to thank you for coming, but I also want to hear from you. So what needs further clarity? What didn't make sense to you? Where are places that you see that we can work together? And are there things that resonate with you? Anyone have some comments? Certainly, if you're comfortable, we'd love to take them now. Anyone? I'm going to write them down. Maybe that's the easy. Anyone? Thoughts, comments, questions? Please.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to learn more about your measurements. I know you mentioned the other times, but so I really want
It's a great question. I don't have a great answer for you today, and that's because we're still working on it. One of the guiding principles here is that one size does not fit all. So it's easiest when you say one size fits all, but we know that success in this neighborhood looks very different than success in Ohio City, which is another, or Detroit Shoreway, which are some other areas where we're funded. So we want to be very cognizant of that. And again, I think have plans that, again, show continued development for both the CDCs that we fund as well as for us. And those really are discussions we're still having now to turn the report into some clear measurements. We're also in conversations with the CDCs and about what the new funding will look like and how we can support them to be stronger and stronger, and how we can measure that and make everybody accountable. Again, starting with ourselves. Please, Paul.
Just to tag onto that, I think one of the most important things to measure is neighborhood resilience, and how you measure that is difficult. When I was at NPI, I assisted with some of the measuring of metrics for community development corporations. It's easy to measure housing units produced or projects accomplished or how many people come to a neighborhood meeting. But that sort of resilient factor is harder to measure. And there was a great article recently in the New York Times about a neighborhood, very poor neighborhood, that was more resilient than other areas when hit with a tragedy. There was a murder in this community, and people were able to bounce back because there were more connections between people. People, instead of leaving, stayed. They worked together with neighbors, and that's the kind of work that I think you're sort of positioning yourself to do. But it's somewhat hard to sort of pin it down and measure what makes that happen, but I think we're learning more about it every day. So I just hats off on this effort, and I'm very excited about it.
Thank you, and I think we'd love to see that article and talk to you more, because this again was where you really made a great contribution, and we want to build on that and go beyond it, right? So I love that about neighborhood resilience. So, and again, look around us, right? This is a great example of it, right? Something that wouldn't have gotten measured maybe as it's not a house, but a wonderful contribution to the neighborhood. So we want to make sure that we're capturing all of these things. And again, measurement shouldn't stifle innovation and entrepreneurship, right? So because we can only do so many things. So if you do a project like this, or the Urban Agricultural Innovation Zone, does that mean it takes you away from something, and what's the value of that? So I want to be supportive of CBCs being innovative and entrepreneurial. And again, we'll all make mistakes sometimes, but we know that the best CDCs, in my opinion, have been those who have really been creative about, and maybe resilient is another way of saying that, about dealing with the challenges that they're seeing. An example I use on the west side, actually this is one of the examples that I use on the east side, right? A lot of land and going to the Urban Agricultural Innovation Zone as a response. I talked on the west side of the Ohio City CDC that was losing young people when they had children, and they started a T-ball league, right? Again, it's how do you measure that? But we know one of their problems was that they were losing people when they had children. So they were responsive to that in a really creative, relatively low-cost way. So I like that. Please, Dave.
Joel, as you work through developing and identifying metrics, will you use external consultants to help, or will you keep this work in-house?
I don't know is the answer, but I will say that we couldn't have done this plan without David Morgenstern and value added that she represents. And I think sometimes we will look when possible for outside consultants. To me, that's a good role for an outside consultant to help us think through these things, and also to bring in others' perspectives, right? So when we do that, we want to be talking to our funders, we want to talk to our funded agencies, right? We want to produce things that are meaningful, that, right, the worst thing you have is a lot of paperwork for everyone to fill out that doesn't mean anything. It's very easy to get there, that's probably the easiest thing. So to answer your question, I would say I have a bias toward having an outside voice on that. And we would like to do that when possible, but we don't really know yet. Vicki, please.
Can you talk about VCC's spending capacity moving forward?
I'm actually thrilled to do that because VCC is a lending arm. So for those of you who know a little less about it, we have two primary operating subsidiaries. And one is Village Capital and one is New Village. Village Capital is the lending arm. We have about $25 million of loans under the umbrella of Village Capital. Those loans range from $40,000 to $1 million. I got an update recently, so my numbers are good. It's run by Linda Warren, so it's under the placemaking work. We'll continue to be focused on it. Candace Williams, right, Candace, is increasingly taking a leadership role. For those of you who don't know Candace, she's a great asset to our staff and very involved with Village Capital. I'm really excited to talk about this. Village Capital is as strong as it's been in 5 or 6 years. And Village Capital, I won't lie to you, had a near-death experience caused by the foreclosure crisis. It has been exclusively invested in Cleveland real estate. So you people in the room know a little bit about that. There were some really hard to deal with loans in 2007, 8, and 9. But we very much turned the corner. One of the numbers we use is something called a net asset ratio. You're supposed to be above 20. We got below 11, but now we're at 23. So we've turned the corner. I again just give that to you. It's a useful little thing. So we've turned the corner. I think we are very much going to be back in the lending business. Very soon, within weeks, I think there's the possibility of some new loans. So Some things are getting paid back. Again, we're getting to a position of health. So Village Capital has its own separate strategic plan, but we're excited that Village Capital, I think, is going to be a strong part of the placemaking agenda going forward under Linda and Candace, and we're going to be in the business of making loans again to support development of this. Anything you want to add, Linda?
No, I think you covered it.
Please, Councilman.
Joel, a couple of points. One is, at least for myself, I just want to say that the depth of thinking and the presentation coming out of the summit and now the go-arounds is very, very stimulating. I think it's great for the history of the effort in Cleveland and the threshold that we're at now. And just to have very well thought out and deep document. Secondly, and I'm glad two of the other council people are here, but I hope and I understand this is a live wire, but when you talk about partnering, the city is a partner. And council members, boards, CDCs have had a strong history of, and I think that should be put in an objective framework and looked at. Some have been highly successful, some have been less so, and I think there needs to be an honest discussion about that. And two other points I'd just like to throw out. One is that one about language. This is a pet issue of mine, so I'll get it out now. But neighborhoods of choice sounds like a marketing tool, and I know often it is that, but it sounds like choices being made from the outside coming in. There's a good 400,000 people in Cleveland who are making choices as well, and those choices often are to stay or to go. How does my neighborhood rank in the great scheme of things? We have inherited a very unfortunate history of the post-World War II real estate boom. Is moving up means moving out, so there's a tie-in with wealth building, and advancement means getting out of the old neighborhood. And so to me, that's a language issue, which also relates to strategy and reality, that really does need to be probed deeply. I represent a relatively stable community, but highly volatile. And silver lining in the housing mortgage crisis was nobody could move, and so there was some added stability. But those are realities, and I think that related to the fourth point I'm going to make is that the MPI's history of this is I think this is something we should try to elevate more in our thinking as well, is that strategic investment and model development has often been viewed as what I call kind of the beauty contest. That there's winners and losers, and Miss America, 50 contestants go and 49 go home losers. And we don't want that in the neighborhood business. So selecting and targeting and modeling, I think needs to be looked at in less of a way of kind of picking winners and losers, and more in a way of building comprehensive capacity, as well as you noted, is to MPI to now move back into the realm of more comprehensive strategy development and capacity building. I think is something where, that people like me is going to be seeing as believing, but I think that, it's kudos to you for acknowledging that and saying that you're going to do that, because we're really, neighborhoods are like the old Union expression that we're only as strong as our weakest link. And we ought to be building a strategy and looking at it that way. There's no, that's my foot.
So thank you. I'd like to say a few things in response, but first, right back at you. Thank you for your contributions and your constant intellectual input into the system and your thought leadership. So thank you. We're very proud of this plan, so we appreciate your recognition of some of its strengths. I do want to say, you know, but I want to point out, of course, that a member of the Strategic Task Force and a member of our board has traditionally been the chair of the Community Development and Economic Development Committee of Cleveland City Council. As you know, that's Tony Brancatelli. Tony actually came to the first of our 3 sessions. So we have had input from council, and you know that, but again, that is really important.
And he was on the strategic planning.
Yes, so, and made some very, and obviously Tony comes out of community development, so he really played a very key role. I think your point is well taken. You will see, and so in the strategic plan, if you pick it up, in every one of those charts on 35 pages, it says who are our partners for each one of our 88 tactics. How many strategies? There's 4 goals, some other strategies, 88 tactics, and for each one we say who our partners are, and many, many times you will see Cleveland City Council. But it can't be emphasized enough that the largest amount of funding that comes to community development corporations is through community development block grant and other funding, which comes at the recommendation of the council people. So we very much know and look at how important your role is, and look forward to continuing to work with you to reshape the system. And it's kind of, we think it's an ongoing conversation with you and with other stakeholders, but obviously.
Joe, if I could just interject now, I wasn't looking just for acknowledgement. The ongoing conversation is